All right, this podcast is LG4. I can calculate slope and rate of change. I have written the steps here. However, when we're finding slope, we've already talked about how you would take your rise over your run. So when we rise on a graph, we talked about how that is our y values. And when we run, that is our x values. So we're going to simplify this in an equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, where the y2 and y1 and where that comes from, typically on a graph we choose 2 points. So those 2 points that we choose, we would label x1, y1 and x2, y2. Okay, so let's do some examples. All right, so on this graph I do have 2 points. So I am going to make this my first point, and if you notice, remember we always list ours as xy. So x1 is negative 1. That means y1 is the negative 2. So again, this is the first point I choose, and it really doesn't matter which point you choose. Just make sure that within the ordered pair you have x and y, and both of them would be your 1s. Okay, so this second ordered pair here, these are going to be my 2s. So x2 is 2, and y2 is 2. So now using the formula, we take y2, so m equals y2, which was 2, minus y1. Now y1 is negative 2, so I'm putting that in parentheses just to show I am subtracting my y1. Over x2, which is 2, minus x1, which again, it is negative 1, so I'm using parentheses to show that x1 is negative 1. Okay, so now we simplify. Our numerator is negative 2 minus 2. So negative 2 minus 2 is just, 2 minus negative 2 is just 2 plus 2, so that is 4. And 2 minus negative 1 is just 2 plus 1, which is 3. Now, because we need to do it as rise over run, we need to leave it as a mixed number. Okay, so, an improper fraction. We cannot put 1 and 1/3. Okay, that 1 and 1/3 does not work for when we're dealing with slope. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so I'm going to make these my 1s, and I'm going to make the second point my 2s. Okay, so m equals y2 is 5 minus y1, which was 4, over x2 minus x1. Again, remember our ordered pairs are x, y. So I simplify, 5 minus 4 is 1, 3 minus 0 is 3, and this simplifies down as far as it can go, so 1 over 3 is my slope. Now, if you remember, we've talked about this, we have it noted in our composition notebooks. When Joe is going up the hill, he goes puff, puff, positive. So increasing from left to right is positive. When Joe is going down the hill, he goes nice, negative. When Joe is cross-country skiing, it is 0 fun. So we remember 0 fun because if we were to do the slope, it would be 0 over any number. It does not go up or down. So I remember this as okay. It is okay. I have 0 slope. However, here, if I were to do the slope, I would have a number over 0. And so that would be no. That is undefined. Joe would fall into a million pieces, and he would be no longer defined as Joe. All right, so go ahead and try this one on your own. I am going to do one without a graph. Okay, so we don't necessarily need a graph to do slope. We can just have 2 points. So I'm going to label these x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to use the same formula. So negative 2 minus 4 over 5 minus negative 1. Again, when I have that negative as my second number, I'm just showing I'm subtracting that. So let's simplify. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. 5 minus negative 1 is 6. So I have negative 6 over 6. I can simplify that to be negative 1. If we want to list it as rise over run, remember any number can be turned into a fraction by just putting it over 1. So either way, -1 or -1/1, it is the right answer. So that concludes the podcast for LG4, knowing how to calculate slope.